people have written a lot of great questions to me, and I wanted to put together a video that's more of a slideshow with lots of images and videos to answer these questions. And so here we go. We're going to start right at the top. The first question is, are you ever afraid of offending the host while negotiating? The answer is no. And I have to say this is more of sort of life advice, I guess. I'm not really afraid of offending anyone ever. When someone is offended, they're taking offense. You are not giving offense. Because let's be honest, people get offended at the most ridiculous things. And it's not like there's one thing that everyone gets offended at, right? Everyone has their own unique things that just piss them off. So that's number one. You're never going to know, and nor should you care, if something you say is going to offend someone, because it's them choosing to be offended by those words. That's number one. Then number two, you have to remember that you're going to be giving them money. And in my case, the hosts that I negotiate with, I'm giving them literally thousands of dollars. So I doubt anyone's ever going to be offended with me trying to give them thousands of dollars. So that's my answer to that question. Question number two. Many neighborhoods are covered by one property manager. It's not one person who can't pay their mortgage. It's a middleman who's taking a cut and might not have the same motivation. Do you include those hosts on your list? Well, it's not always clear if the person on Airbnb is the person that actually owns the property or not. I mean, sometimes you can tell because it'll be like a real estate company logo, or it'll be some sort of association or something like that, or apartment building. It'll be like apartment building logo, an apartment building name. But because sometimes you can tell, sometimes you can't. But I wouldn't even use that as a factor in trying to negotiate. Most property managers are simply going to pass your offer on to the owner of the unit and see what they say. So to me, there isn't much difference with a property manager or directly with the person. Number three, when several hosts meet your price, what's the next move/response? You can only pick one. Go with the one that has the most features and is in the best location. Okay? And I would quickly book your reservation with the winning Airbnb, and politely thank the rest and blame your significant other if you have to for an easy way out. But yeah, just go with the one that's the best, that you think is the best. Question number four. Why do you always have the same black shirt on? Multiple reasons, actually. Number one, so when we left the United States, we basically had one large suitcase and one carry-on each. And with that, we didn't have a definite plan of what weather we were going to come in contact with. We didn't know where we were going to go, so we had to pack a little bit of everything. So we have some shorts and some sweatshirts and stuff like that, but we can't have that much when you're traveling on the world, going to different places. So the reason why I have a black shirt on is, I needed to have something that would kind of make me look professional. I figured that would be it. It also hides the microphone very nicely because it's a black microphone. And also a lot of people that I look up to, this is kind of random, but a lot of people I look up to and think are really smart actually wear black shirts a lot. So there's a reason for the black shirt. Question 5. What was the most difficult Airbnb negotiation and why? That's actually where I am right now. I'm recording this in Greece. And the reason why it was the most difficult is you have to understand when I came here, it was May 14th, 2021. Now, if you look up that date, that's a very important date for Greece. And the reason is that was the day that Greece reopened for tourists from all over the world. So for the last, I think it was 14 months or so, Greece had been closed to people and restaurants were closed. And so no one was coming here and the tourism sector was just decimated. And so we happened to be in Montenegro before coming to Greece. And so when we were doing the negotiation with people here in Greece, they were not budging very much. And the reason why they weren't budging is because a lot of people were starting to come to Greece. Because Greece was really the only one in Europe, that only country in Europe that was open, because everywhere else in Europe is closed, and a lot of it's actually cold. So anyone in France and Germany and Norway or anything like that wanted to go on vacation, they really couldn't go anywhere except for Greece. And we happened to be coming to Greece on the day that it was opening to the world. So so in the course, obviously I tell you to put together lists of Airbnbs, I think about 10 or 12 or so. I actually had to do that 3 times to end up on the one, on the Airbnb that we ended up with. I literally went through the same process that I tell you. I went through 29 times basically, and actually narrowed it down to the one that we stayed at. A few other people said yes as well. But the prices were just so high, and they were so high because there was so much interest in this area at the time. Question number 6. Once you negotiate a great Airbnb deal, what should you do? Well, so if you get a great deal from a host, be on your best behavior. Be respectful of the property. Don't be loud. Clean up after yourself. Don't, play music really loud. Don't be annoying. Don't be an asshole, really. That's great life advice, actually. Don't be an asshole, but definitely not when you're getting a great Airbnb deal. And you know what? Even if the property wasn't perfect, but you got a great deal on it, give them a 5-star review. Question number 7. Should I do anything with my Airbnb account to make it more appealing to hosts? Yes, there actually is a few things you could do. Number 1, make sure that you have a nice professional photo, okay? Don't have one of you drunk, at some rock concert, puking on the sidewalk or something like that. Have a nice professional photo. Whatever the nicest photo you have of yourself, use that. Because, Airbnb hosts don't want some disaster coming to their house and being awful and destroying things. So number 1, nice professional photo. Number 2, make sure that you verify everything that you can, your identity, your phone, your email. That's a trust indicator that the host can look at and go, yeah, this person at least had enough intelligence to verify these things. And have a nice friendly bio too. Hosts like people that are traveling for business, specifically because those business travelers are not going to be throwing parties and destroying things. So I would focus more on your job. Maybe don't say, oh, I am traveling for business, but maybe focus on your professional experience more. You just don't want to sound like you are going to destroy the place. So anything you can do to make that known, definitely do. Question 8. While traveling around the world, are there any computer applications you recommend? Yes, absolutely. What you need to do is you need to get something called NordVPN, okay? And that is a VPN service. I'm not going to go into the detail of what that does, but it basically routes your browser traffic through different servers around the world. Now, and it also helps keep secure. But why would you want to redirect traffic, your browser traffic from different places around the world? Well, I didn't know this before leaving the United States, but the internet is different in different places you go. Now, I'm not talking about, China or any of those places that are obviously very much censoring the internet for the people in that country. But even in, Italy or even here, for example, let me tell you, Netflix is different. Like, my wife Amy really likes Friends. And so if you can't get Friends in the United States, but you can get it in Italy. And you can also get it, I believe, in Montenegro. And you don't necessarily have to be in those places. If you're using Nord, you can just select a different country and then you'll have access to different shows on Netflix. Now, I know Netflix isn't, the most important thing, but there's a lot of news articles and stuff that you go to and they'll say, this is not available in your area. But then when I connect, let's say, to the United States, then I can read the article. And just talking about news, and actually in Google News, which I look at a lot, if you were in Spain and you go to Google News is shut down there, so you can't even access it. I'm sure that there's other places around the world that have different things like that, but as long as if you have Nord, then you can always change the country that websites think you're coming from, and that way you can get by any country-specific restrictions that you might come in contact with. I didn't know that was a thing, but it really is. And it's not a computer application, but one thing that became an issue, not that big of an issue, but it was annoying, is ATM fees. We would get hit with these, let's say $14 to $20 per ATM withdrawal, and that was starting to add up. So we actually looked into the Schwab checking account. I'll put some of that on the screen right here. We're actually waiting for our card to get here, but this actually has no ATM fees worldwide, so that's going to be really useful. So traveling around the world, get Nord and get that Schwab account. Question 9. What has been your worst airport experience? By far, it was Aruba. It was so bad. So I'm going to give you the quick version because I want to draw this out. So we had come up to basically our 90 days in Aruba, and we were like, all right, we got to go to Croatia. So of course that means we had to get a COVID test. We had to print all kinds of paperwork saying from the Croatia website that we could go there. Had all that stuff, all great. We go to the airport in Aruba, and we go up to the airport, the desk where the employee is. I'm like, all right, we have our ticket. We want to go to Croatia. They say, oh, sorry, Croatia is closed to tourists. Well, that's a problem because we had to be out of the country. But we had checked, now, of course, things could change, but we had checked that day, and everything was fine with Croatia. So it turns out that the person at the desk didn't have the right information. Now, of course, this was after probably 20 minutes and multiple managers coming over, trying to verify that us as United States citizens could go from Aruba to Amsterdam. That was our layover, was in Amsterdam, and then to Zagreb, and then to Split. So by the time we got that figured out, it was like, oh, great. So they print our boarding passes and they hand it to us, and they go, oh, do you have an onward ticket? I was like, no, that's not required for Croatia. They literally took our boarding passes out of our hands and said, sorry, you have to have an onward ticket from Croatia. I was like, oh my God. So we found this little table, we got some food. Now keep in mind, we're supposed to be getting on a plane. We got some food and we booked and this was just using our phones. And of course, using your phones in different countries, it's awful, it's slow. So we're both on our phones trying to find the right combination to get us out of Croatia, but back to a country like the United States that would accept American citizens at that time. Now, of course, some of the stuff has changed. So the end result was we had to book 2 tickets, and we had to match up the days and all that. We had to book 2 tickets before they would let us on the plane. Now, here's a great tip for you. There's a site called onwardticket.com, and if we would have known about this would have saved us so much time and so much headaches. What this site does, it's genius. I don't know how they do it. But you basically plug in where you want to go, where you're coming from, where you want to go, and what date, and they will basically book a ticket for you, but they're not actually booking the ticket for you because I think it's in 48 hours. They're going to cancel that ticket. So basically, they're giving you the paperwork to show the person at the airport so that they're satisfied that you have an onward ticket. It's really genius. I think it's maybe $12 or so. But without having to deal with like canceling flights. That's what we had to do. We actually had to cancel the flights that we booked in Aruba. But and that was a nightmare. So yeah, if you could just use, when you need an onward ticket, just use onwardticket.com and then it'll automatically cancel. You don't have to think about it. So yeah, that all started from worst airport experience. All right, number 10 and the last question. What are some of the cultural differences and unique things you've experienced while traveling to different countries? Wow, there's a lot. So that this doesn't drag on forever, let me just, I actually took some notes about this. Let me read you off some of the highlights here. So just going sort of in order in the countries that we went to. So Aruba feels a lot like Florida, right? So because we're coming from Florida, Aruba feels, now of course I'm talking about the sort of more built up places. There are some places that don't feel like Florida, but where we were, which was Eagle Beach, that felt like Florida a lot. And there's a lot of casinos there. Another cool thing about Aruba is that you can ride ATVs on the streets and highways. I actually did that for my birthday last year. That was really fun. Let's talk about Croatia. This was weird too. Croatian people are really skinny. Like I felt like a really fat American being in Croatia. And another thing interesting about talking about weight is that the people there, they don't seem to eat food. People are at restaurants, you see that all the time, but when you look at what they're consuming, It's coffee and tea and water and cigarettes. I cannot tell you how many times we went to a restaurant and we were the only two people actually consuming solid food. It was really weird. I definitely felt like I was doing something weird because everyone else is having coffee and tea and we were actually eating. And another observation was that people in Croatia, and it was kind of like this in Montenegro too, because those two countries are very close together. When you see people dining out or just hanging out together, you typically see groups of the same gender. Like, for the most part, at restaurants, you see like groups of guys at a table. And you see another table with groups of girls at a table. Rarely would you, now you'd see a couple, a man and a woman at a table, but for the most part, it was groups of same-sex people at all the restaurants. I don't quite know why. I mean, I'm sure these people had boyfriends and girlfriends. Maybe just in those cultures, you just don't go out to dinner with them, maybe? I'm not entirely sure. So it's Croatia. Italy. Italy has the best produce I've ever tasted. Seriously. The tomatoes and oranges are the most tomatoey and orangey pieces of fruit I've ever had. Now, maybe that plays a part in why Italian food is so good, because their produce is so good. So that was really interesting for me to try produce and just be blown away by how good it was. I didn't know that. And also, pizza crust is nothing like it is in the United States. Pizza crust is very airy. There's air pockets in it, and it's chewy. In the United States, you can get like thin and crispy pizza crust, or you can get like thick, like deep dish pizza. It's none of that is in Italy. It's, like I said, it's very airy. It's very chewy. It's very, very good. Very unique. So let's move on to Montenegro. It was very much like Croatia, with bigger mountains. The mountains were everywhere, and they were really, really beautiful. Montenegro seemed to eat a lot of meat. I had some really great meat dish, and of course my favorite place is Parast. I post about that on Instagram a lot. So yeah, Montenegro. Sadly, I don't have a lot to say about Montenegro because when we were there, basically everything was closed, and we couldn't even leave the municipality we were in. So unfortunately, I couldn't experience much, but yeah, the mountains are really, really beautiful and a lot of meat dishes. All right, Greece, which is where I am now, and specifically I'm in Athens, and I'm in a section called, and I'm sure I'm going to mess this up, Paleo Faliro. I'm sure I'm screwing that up, but do a Google search for that. You'll kind of see where it is. Well, I didn't know this, but on the streets, just lining like a normal street is orange trees and lemon trees, and it looks really cool. I don't know if you can eat them. I haven't seen anyone eat them. And actually, I see a lot of just sort of rotting oranges and lemons on the ground and on top of people's cars. But it looks really cool. Another thing about Greece, as you can imagine, and I know it's more like this also on the islands, which we haven't gotten to yet, but all the buildings here are white. Like, I don't imagine you can ever say to someone, hey, meet me at the white building, because just every single one is white. And just like the other places, lots of stray cats. Another thing, let's say that, you go to a restaurant and you tell the waiter or waitress, I want this, whatever. You order a few things, right? What they'll do, when they bring you food, they also bring you a receipt, and they put the receipt on the table. But let's say after, you've been sitting there for a while, you had all your food, and you're like, oh, you know what? I want another orange juice. Okay, yeah, can I have orange juice? Sure. They give you another receipt. Now you have two receipts on the table. And now maybe after a while, you're like, you know what? Let's get some dessert. Like, all right, I want some baklava, which is amazing, by the way. I want some baklava. And they go, okay, yeah, sure, bring the baklava. And they give you another receipt. Now you have three receipts sitting on the table. I don't quite know why they do this, but that happens at restaurants. So I can keep talking about this forever, but those are at least some of the highlights. So I want to give a special thanks to Amy and Tim from Go With Less. They are a lovely nomadic couple that have a YouTube channel. They make a lot of content. I highly recommend that you check them out on YouTube. Go to YouTube and do a search for Go With Less and check out Amy and Tim. And of course, I want to thank Tom Antion from Screw the Commute podcast, among all the other things that he does. He's an incredibly smart and helpful guy. So I hope you enjoyed this video about all the questions that I wanted to answer for you guys.
Να βρουνε τέτοιον άντρα κι άλλες γυρεύανε.